Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Thomas Take on the Ben Thomas Show. There are so many releases coming from Hot Toys that have been announced this week, but one popped up just the other day, and I just had to talk about it because it's stirring up a lot of controversy in the 1/6 scale community, and I think it's an interesting one. I'm talking about Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop from the TV show Hawkeye. Stick around, let's get into it. Okay, so before we get too far into it, let's just review a little bit about what comes in the box with this figure. So the hand pieces first. You get to see at least one pair of fists. You get to see one pair of open hands, one pair of bow holding hands from the looks of it, and one pair of arrow holding hands. For the weapons, we are seeing here at least one bow, which looks like it's got a wood grain pattern to it, which is nice. I will give it that. And we do get a chance to see at least 6 individual arrows and 6 interchangeable trick arrowheads with different styles. In terms of the accessories that it comes with, it's kind of slim pickings here. It looks like you only really get the one arrow quiver with the attachable crossbody belt, it looks like, and a theme figure stand with a series logo and a character name. Now, right off the top, I do feel a little disappointed. We only get one head sculpt with this figure, which, you know, Hot Toys is seemingly increasing their pricing, but slowly giving us less and less with the figures themselves. Haley Steinfeld, as an actress, has an extremely expressive face, and this character portrait, I fear, doesn't really capture her personality very well. Yes, it is a concentration face, and yes, I understand that sometimes we 1/6 collectors feel a little bit, robbed of a character pose if we get a silly face like we had with Ant-Man, for example, in the past. But she's a bit of a silly character even still, and her personality shines bright, and I feel like this face doesn't capture that very well. The other strange factor on this particular head sculpt is this little white bandage that we're seeing on the bottom left of her chin. When I first saw these character images, I swear I thought it was a piece of styrofoam stuck to the character's face. It's not. There are certain angles that we get a chance to see that this is a bandage that's over essentially a sore spot on her face, which is accurate to the television show. At the end of the show, she had battle damage that very much looks like this. It was pretty subtle battle damage, but she essentially did have a little bandage over her chin. I just think it's a unique inclusion by Hot Toys. I'm surprised that they added it in, especially since they only gave us one head sculpt. It's not like we got a clean Kate Bishop figure as well as a battle damaged Kate Bishop figure. We're getting something a little on the in-between, and it looks a little silly to me. And speaking of silly, the hair looks a little strange. I'm hoping it's just because it's a prototype that we haven't quite seen a fully polished version of what the end result might look like. I know that there's great debate between whether or not people want sculpted hair or rooted hair. 98% of the time, I actually prefer sculpted hair. I don't think this hairstyle will necessarily limit the head sculpt's range of movement, which is awesome. I think the bangs in the front look a little almost like an afterthought, like they were attached after the rest of the hairpiece was sculpted, but it kind of looks like she's wearing 2 separate pieces of hair, which is similar to the style of hair she had in the show, don't get me wrong. I just don't know if the way that they've executed it in terms of the sculpting here is truly on point. I think it could use a little bit of rework. But I'm happy that it's not rooted hair. That way, there's no risk of having any frizzy ends. And, it will look the same no matter what pose you put her in. And I do like that aspect of it. And I think also, maybe there was an opportunity here to have one of those hybrid sculpts where you have a little bit of rooted hair as well as some sculpted hair. Now, something I am actually really impressed with is the arm extension we're seeing with this figure. I've had a lot of figures in my collection who have bodysuits similar to this that cannot raise their arm up that high and that straight without either having major suit bunching or literally the suit just pulls at the arm so badly that you just can't get it to stay, especially if it's not on a ratcheted joint. This looks really good. I like the extension with the bow. I like how she's able to hold the bow and the arrow with two different hands, like we mentioned earlier, that come with the set. I think that's really, really well done. And I like that you don't get to see much bunching in the suit, and you can also see, like I mentioned earlier, that doesn't look like the hair is impeding the head's ability to turn on the body and make it look like she's looking down essentially the arrow when she's aiming. I think that's really cool, and I really appreciate that about this bodysuit specifically. I also really like the look of the material of the bodysuit. Nowhere here am I seeing major sections of pleather that I think might start to fail or peel over time. You know, there are always concerning sections when you put a figure into a dynamic pose, but I think it makes sense that this outfit has a mixture of material as well as a mixture of some of those bandings. But based on the photos, it does look like you can achieve a pretty dynamic pose with this figure, which I do appreciate. If she's an archer, she's jumping around the show quite a lot. You definitely want to be able to pose this figure. What I do think is unique is it does look like the figure stand is actually more of a waist grabber type stand than a dynamic flight pull, which is a bit unfortunate. Obviously the flight pulls have more cost associated with them, I would imagine, and so that's probably why we're really only getting the waist clamp here. I do like that they've shown photos here that have her even with that waist clamp. It looks like likely around her leg, so she still gets some of that jumping motion. So you can futz with it a little bit, or most of us have another figure stand in our collection that we could use if we want to really pull off some crazy dynamic poses with this figure. Now it is also hard to tell, but it does look like the boots may just be single cut boots, not with that dual cut that allows for a little bit more foot extension, which is annoying for a lot of figures, especially when we want them to be in a jumping pose. Having subtle foot movements in a character really bring it to life. Most of us don't jump with our feet in a 90-degree angle, so it's disappointing if it's not a split cut boot design, but again, I know we've all found ways around that, so it's not a deal breaker necessarily on the figure itself. I'm curious how delicate the bowstring will be with the bow. Curious to find out how delicate the arrows are. Are they going to snap easily, or do they have a little bit of durability and flexibility so we can have some fun with them while we're posing? What are your thoughts? Now they showed us one last image that I thought was worthy of noting. Do you see Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye in the corner there? I think I do. And I see the purple suit on him, which means that must be a new figure release that is coming for Hot Toys. Now, why they didn't give us a preview with Kate Bishop and Hawkeye at the same time, just like they did with Loki and Sylvie for the television show Loki, blows my mind. For me, these two are a pair. They are a combo deal. Their chemistry in the show really brought it to life for me. And if I were to collect Kate Bishop, I'd want this representation of Hawkeye in the collection beside her, kicking ass. I wish they'd given us a preview of Hawkeye alongside this figure as well, just so I could get amped up about both of them. At the end of the day, I think overall I am actually very impressed with this figure. I do really think this figure could have benefited from at least a second, maybe more expressive head sculpt and or rolling eye system. If she had the rolling eye system, you'd be able to get potentially even just a little bit more personality out of her by giving people the side eye, or, you know, even being able to look down that bow just that a little bit better than even what we've seen from some of these prototype images. But those are some relatively small nitpicks. I would still give this figure preview for this figure a 7.5 out of 10. I don't totally see the Hailee Steinfeld likeness here, but I think it's darn close. And I think if they're able to tweak it just a little bit more to get that likeness just a little bit more on point, it may in fact, at some point, get my money. So the question remains, are you guys going to pick up this figure? I liked Kate Bishop as a character quite a lot. And I do see some of the likeness to Hailee Steinfeld in this character portrait. But I'm not totally sold on it quite yet. So I'd love to hear from you guys, just in the comments. Are you picking up this figure? Why or why not? What convinced you to pull the pre-order button already? If you haven't pre-ordered this figure or aren't planning on picking this figure up, why? Is it the likeness? Is it just you don't have that attachment to the character that some people need? to have that 1/6 scale representation in their collection. Kate Bishop is pretty new to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I know that in the Hawkeye show, she had a pretty positive reception, and a lot of people really love Hailee Steinfeld as an actress, and she's been doing a great job so far. So if you're not going to pick it up, why? If you are going to pick it up, I also want to hear from you. Also, if you guys liked the video, please just hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and this has been another episode of The Thomas Take on The Ben Thomas Show. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you on the next one.